but I'm still going to turn off
Okay.
my video. Okay.
Okay.
So it's all you.
Okay.
Bye.
Thank you. Hello again. Sorry for the, this Wi-Fi thing. I don't know what's going on. So yeah, I randomly gave the name of my talk, Yakthung Tayem, as it also, you can say Yakthung Futures. But I had this talk last night here in North Melbourne in Arts House, and there's this, in discussion it came up like, why just Yakthung Futures? Why not? There are like more than 60 different indigenous nations in Nepal, right? Are you just want to talk about your nation, and you just want to talk about your people? I think I don't have to kind of explain to the audience in this room today, but I just want to put it out there, like the things that I practice and work on is just an example of how indigenous people would like to see themselves in the future. Is just an example. I am a Yakthung man myself, then obviously I would make works about the people and the community I'm from, and I would leave other indigenous or Adivasi futurist fellow indigenous artists to carve and create their own stories. So yeah, that's the thing. So I'm going to talk about Adivasi futurisms or indigenous futurisms. It's like inspired by and heavily inspired by Afrofuturism and indigenous futurism, but the term Adivasi I wanted to use because it kind of situates my practice in a specific geography and a specific time and history of that land and those people, and it will help us to kind of contextualize the ongoing or the past events and the events that will come to explore. That's why the use of the term Adivasi, which basically means indigenous in Nepali and in other languages in Indian subcontinent. So I guess Anna has already given my introduction, so I don't think I need to go through that again. So to give you a very brief overview, we are situated in eastern part of Nepal, the Yakthung people, bordering India, but also, so we call our homeland Limbuan, but also the Yakthung or the Limbu people, they live in Sikkim and also some people in Bhutan. We all know that this idea of nation states and the border are very new to us. Even the state of Nepal, which is merely like 250 years old, and to find our kin or our community across the border is this kind of things has happened to many countries around the world where people have been kind of displaced, or they found themselves in another country. Basically they are the same people, but yeah, but this is the geography that we are from in the eastern Nepal. Sikkim, we have loads of Yakthung people in Sikkim, and in Limbuan people, that is our homeland. So talking about Adivasi futurism, I see it as a space where Adivasi writers, musicians, filmmakers can imagine and speculate future scenarios from their perspective, where they have agency, technology, sovereignty, and also the indigenous knowledge, culture, ethics, and storytelling still intact. Of course, with upgraded codes. What I mean by upgraded codes mean like all of the things passed down to us. We have this oral tradition called mundum in our Yakthung nation, right? So mundum kind of dictates the way of life in our community. So what should you do when a newborn baby is born? I mean, what should you do when you get married? What should you do when you have like a fight with a neighbor or something? What should you do? I mean, when when you elope with someone else's wife? I mean, you know, those kind of things. We all have those customary laws and all of those things in our those oral traditions. I mean, or this oral kind of story or histories. I mean, you know, whatever you want to call it. Even those things have been kind of updated as we speak, right? I mean, it hasn't been a, what you call it? It hasn't been a static thing. The word mundum itself, I mean, it comes from something that is always in motion. I mean, you know, that the word mundum itself. So it's always in a state of like change, like Octavia Butler says, like, I mean, change is the only thing. I mean, change is the, only constant kind of, you know, the idea Octavia Butler always kind of reiterate. So upgraded codes meaning of course, I mean, we follow our customary laws and traditions, but with time, we are very able and we are very kind of lenient to move with those kind of our ethics and laws. I mean, culture, I mean, even the traditions, I mean, they are always changing slightly but surely. I mean, that's what I meant by upgraded codes, because in like say 500 years from now or 2000 years from now, I mean, of course, I mean, we will have a slightly or very different idea of the future. I mean, a very different idea of I mean, you know, our society or, you know, our identity. I mean, it will not remain, I mean, it will not remain the same forever. I mean, everything will change. I mean, that's what I meant by upgraded codes. Yeah, it could be an intersection, you know, where we can not just delink, but dismantle Brahminical patriarchal casteism. So why I'm using that term is like, because like in India, our society in Nepal, although we are indigenous people, and because of the last 250 years of internal colonization from the state, I mean, we haven't been kind of spared from this really nasty grasp of casteism. And there are people, I mean, our indigenous community was kind of, you know, forced to assimilate in that caste system. So the reason that I'm trying to kind of, you know, address that issue is because the amount of Brahminical and this patriarchal casteism that is kind of very, that has been like very detrimental to Adivasis, Indigenous, Dalits, Madhesi people, women and queer people in the region. And so by kind of fighting those systems and to imagine a future for a sovereign indigenous nations along with our Dalit kins and families and allies. I mean, you know, that is what kind of that could be the space that Adivasi Futurism might host. And to so Ningwasum kind of, I already hope the roundtable, Emila, Pasangla, Kalzang, Mabel, Krishma, I already hope, I mean, you guys have heard more about Ningwasum, I mean, than I could ever explain than from Emila and friends. I mean, but I'll try to explain from my side. You know, I'll try to talk about Ningwasum with all the narratives, with all the themes that I have tried to kind of work with to while practicing Adivasi Futurism. So in Ningwasum, I have used like Yakthung folklore, stories, traditions, language, scripts, symbols, music, dance, resistance, and Yakthung worldview, or indigenous worldview, to be honest. I mean, and it explores the main themes I see is like indigeneity, sovereignty, time, memory, time or memory. I mean, I see, I kind of explore those two themes in like one package or something. I mean, and climate change and the idea of nation states. So these are the themes that I have explored in Ningwasum, while imagining a future where Yakthung people have sovereignty, agency, and mind-bending technology. I don't know what that means, mind-bending technology. I mean, we have yet to see it, but yeah, I mean, it is claimed that they will have mind-bending technology in the future, along with their indigeneity intact. And so talking about Ningwasum and Adivasi Futurism as well, I also want to talk about the people involved in the process. So Thebe Limbu is a very good actor, is a very good human being, and cares about the culture, traditions of our Yakthung community. And Santa Nepali, she comes from a Dalit background. She is the cinematographer of the work Ningwasum, and also Ladhamba Tayem. Santa Nepali is the cinematographer for Ladhamba Tayem as well. I mean, I'm talking about Ningwasum because I hope most of you have watched it already. If not, I think Anna has the link, and then you can watch it maybe later on. So I wanted, I wanted to work with Santa because we met in, we have this collective called Hatemal Collective. It's a collective of indigenous and Dalit youth from Nepal who are now kind of based in Nepal and outside of Nepal. And then we met in that collective. And then I didn't know she was a producer and filmmaker and cinematographer. So it was great to have Santa in the team, and then also to kind of pay my respect or pay homage to the struggle of the Dalit people in the work, and it was like our collective kind of says like we want a future where indigenous and Dalit people will have coexisted in the future with liberty and all of the things that we are trying to fight for in this age and time. And talking about the making of Ningwasum, it is more than the it was a kind of a going back to the community. I mean, of course, I was always in the community, but not in the sense that I was trying to link the stories and the struggles of my community in this way. And then it was an eye-opening or even kind of liberating kind of moment for me to get connected with my elders, to get connected with the musicians, to get connected with the indigenous professors, especially Omar Tumihang in the top left corner with a checkered shirt. And he was the one who helped me translate the script. And he was the person to go to kind of if I wanted to clarify anything, if I wanted to ask anything. I mean, for instance, I mean, you know, what would the character of Kangsore, the warrior in the film that you just saw, what he would have worn in 250 years ago? I mean, he would help me like, oh, I mean, so they had this and this kind of textiles back then, they had this and this kind of colors, and, you know, and they may not have been like a totally isolated place because they had economic and trade relations with Tibet. And of course, I mean, they will have some influences from the neighboring areas, but and it's also kind of amazing, like when we think of the ancient or the past stories, we think like a community, I mean, up in the villages, very isolated from the whole world. But apparently that was not the case. I mean, people were moving. I mean, people were like mobile in their own way. I mean, they had trade routes. I mean, they had trades with, you know, fellow I mean, bordering nations or even beyond, I mean, you know, those kind of things. And it was just a very overwhelming and very insightful journey. So in a way, I learned much more than I could, then I kind of came up with like Nyingmashram. I mean, Nyingmashram is just a tip of an iceberg that I was able to kind of experience and learn, you know. So from like making an insignia to like, you know, talking to talking to Auntie who has a textile shop and who kind of designs clothes and other indigenous dresses these days, and artists like Limbu, who was like amazingly helpful. I mean, you know, and of course the shamans, and loads of people, and Kirat Yakthung Chumlung, our tribal organizations. I mean, indigenous organizations of Yakthung people. I mean, it was a I would say a collective effort, the whole process. And also not to forget the person who made the suits. I mean, he comes from Dalit background as well. And I also wanted to, you know, kind of highlight like back in the days, I mean, Limbu people had own, they had their own goldsmiths and tailors, and, you know, but I don't know when, but after since I don't know when, I mean, more than 300 years, I'm sure. I mean, all of the things we wear, all of the things, the ornaments that today the indigenous people, I mean, wear, I mean, those the septum kind of thing that Mixum wears in Nyingmashram and Mickey wears in Ladhamba Tayem, they are all made by our Dalit friends and families, right? So it was an honor to work with Sanu Babu uncle and his wife, who helped with making the suits as well. And it was fun to work with our fellow sister Adivasi Subba, who was from the community, indigenous community as myself. And it was an amazing experience to work with the community. I mean, you know, this work wouldn't have possible without these communities. And I was happy to include these people, our indigenous collaborators and Dalit collaborators in this whole process. And yeah, this is a picture from Kathmandu Triennale installation. So they had this installed just on the way to the dark room where the film was screening. And yeah, I mean, now it's like, I think it will be shown by Cadist at some point, but I don't know when. And yeah, I just wanted to put it out there, but it's a collective effort of the community. I mean, you know. And we talk about the stories, the folk stories. I mean, that that I kind of collected and was interested in. So there are many folklores and folk stories in Indigenous Yakthung nation, but I chose some of them, and one of them is the story of the birth of Venus, which I found it really, really interesting. I mean, it could have layers of messages, or it may not have. I mean, but I mean, I think it's all for the viewer's interpretation to take in. But I really like the story and the birth of Venus, and you know, like that one, or and incorporating our dances and music. This picture was taken in a place. This film, this scene was taken in a place called Wasanglung. So Wasanglung is a place in Yakthung Nation, which is thought to be like the birthplace of all the shamans in the area. So we went to this place. We did tiny bit of shot here and there, but there was a heavy snowfall and hailstones as well at the same time. I don't know. It was cold. I mean, we couldn't shoot that much. And yeah, our dances. So Mixum and Mingsama, I mean, does that dance at the end of the film, if you have watched it. And the traditions, like Yang Lang Fongma at the end of the Ningwasum, you know, it's a day when a newborn child is given a name, blessings, and shown the moon, the sun, and the stars for the first time. It's usually carried out by the matriarchs. My father said mine was carried out by my grandmother, from my mother's side. And before making Ningwasum, I didn't know about this Yang Lang Fongma. I didn't know about this special ritual or traditions. And it's when I learned about it, it was like, wow. I mean, you know, what a beautiful way to kind of welcome a newborn in this world. Like, see, you are here. I mean, you know, you are here in Earth. I mean, the stars are there, the moon is there, and this is your home now. I mean, welcome to the universe, kind of thing. What a profound kind of way to kind of welcome a newborn. I mean, I absolutely loved it. So that's why I wanted to kind of have it at the end of Ningwasum as like a what do you call it? The very optimistic or very hopeful kind of ending. It's always looking out to the future. And of course, I mean, the use of symbols, the use of the traditions, like the main kind of symbols that I usually have used in my work is from Silam Sakma, the one with this diagonal threaded thing. So it's basically a ritual object, but these days our community has agreed to kind of, you know, to establish as a visual identity of our community. And Silam Sakma basically means like to block the path of death. And it's used in like many rituals and not just one. And our organization's logo is also based on this ritual object, Silam Sakma. And I also used it as the main insignia of the time travelers. And the use of the Yakthung script as well. You know, I mean, I had people, and mostly young people, like messaging me, like, I mean, they were very proud to see those scripts in this insignia, and the helmets. I mean, they have this like huge Yakthung letters, the Limbu letters. I mean, you know, those kind of things, or the throw shuttle that you can see here in the picture that Mixam is holding on her palm, which later became the inspiration for the spaceship here down here. We call it Tholi, and I like the shape of the throw shuttle, and you know why it could not become something like a spaceship. I mean, also the sorry. Also, the huge mothership is inspired by the shape of the Chilam Sakma itself. And yeah, these are the kind of symbols that I have used in Nyingma, and also the weaving, the textiles. So the shawl that Mixam is wearing at this picture in the center is a very common kind of design in Yakthung. And it's still, I mean, it's still kind of now after like 1990 revolutions. I mean, more people have been kind of using this textiles and visual identity much more than the previous times these days, and which is like a very good thing to see, I suppose. And the use of the geography, the land, the location. So mostly it's filmed in Sherwa Nation in Nepal, and in our Yakthung Nation, and in the Newa Nation, the Kathmandu Valley. And the left you have, it's a Chotlung Park. It's in place called Basantapur. They have kind of recreated all of the oral stories and oral stories in a park. It's a beautiful park. I mean, if you ever go to Nepal, if you ever go to the eastern Nepal, I mean, it's a very informative and very interesting park to see. And here is Mixam in Wasanglung. It was like really misty. It was about to snow, and then, you know, the right one is in Kanchenjunga, and not Kanchenjunga. The right one is in like near Phoktanglungma. What do you call it? Kumbhakarna. Yeah, it's you can't see Kumbhakarna in the image, but Kumbhakarna is like on the left, but it's like near the side. And but not only this, I mean, while kind of situating these places, our signs, our symbols, our scripts, our language, Adivasi Futurism also imagines a future where we have taken back our relationship with the land and established our connection to the cosmos. So I mean, I don't know how to elaborate that, but I think it speaks, the sentence speaks for itself, I suppose. And also kind of not just kind of watching and letting things go by as normal, but in the future, Adivasi Futurism imagines a time and space where any remnants of colonial, brahminical, racial, and patriarchal, and capitalist, these retrogrades will have faced appropriate responses. And it talks about time, it talks about the weaving, it talks about, you know, it talks about the future where Yakthung people or the indigenous people in the future have created ways to weave time it's called taksakma. Taksakma basically means to weave. So they have created an amazing mind-bending technology. I think this is one of the mind-bending technology. I mean, to weave time, to go into places where you need to go. So like Mixum in Ningwasum and Mickey in the Ladhamba Tayem, they go to different places for their missions or to do the things that they wanted to do. So they have created ways to travel in different timelines, not just past. Not just the past, and not just past or present, but the future. Back and forth, that kind of thing. And Ningwasum basically talks about time as well, and how time and memory is different for different people and communities. Like for instance, there are, like for instance, the person sitting next to you may have a completely different sense of time and space than you do. How so? I'm an Indigenous person and I have a different sort of experience, and next to me could be a Dalit friend who have a different sort of experience, and the way a certain time frame was for certain communities was not the same for every community. While the dominant, Brahminical community was enjoying all of the privileges, the Dalit and Adivasi communities were not. So for the Brahminical community, that time and space could be a time of joy, a time of like peace, a time of like a village life, very wonderful, that kind of thing. But the same time would be very the same time would be unthinkable for people who are being oppressed by those upper caste people or the state. So also some people in our country that we now call Nepal say like, oh, the monarchy was great, the monarchy was good, we had this and that. But the people who were like oppressed by the monarchs, they have a different sense of that time. They have a different sense of them. They have a different memory of that period, right? I always like to give an example of our amazing Yakthung singer called Bhagat Subba. He kind of recorded the first Yakthung album, a cassette tape, in 1991, I suppose, after the revolution. Because before the revolution, in the monarchy, when there was a kingdom, Nepal was a beautiful kingdom. He was not allowed to record the songs. And people just kind of want to dismiss those kind of times. And so that's what Adivasi Futurism or Ningwasum kind of talks about in the work. And it also talks about like how these places and how these stories can act as memory palaces, right? How they can act as like what do you call it? There's a word for it. Like a gate, like a way, or like a passage to kind of retrieve the memories or to retrieve the information from the past that we might have forget, or we might have like, which might have been buried by the buried by colonialism and the state and all of this thing, all of these power structures. I mean, so it takes those, it kind of situates those stories, those symbols, those places. I mean, as like something to extract the memories and kind of put them in the right context and move forward. It talks about climate change, and when we think of climate change, I mean, obviously what comes to mind is this Serwan nation and its people. I mean, I don't have to kind of elaborate the amount of like global warming that is happening in the glaciers of Serwan nation back home, and it talks about the displacement of people from the land and the climate change. Not only kind of it's not only kind of something that will kind of affect us, but it's already happening, and in various different ways, especially in the Himalayas. I mean, people have been displaced because there are no more kind of source of continuous drinking water and for irrigation. And in other ways, in other places, in the name of like protected areas, in the name of like development, I mean, for instance, I mean, there's this huge protest going on. So they are trying to build a cable car. There's a huge cable car project, supported by the state to go ahead. But our people have been kind of amazingly kind of fighting those powers and not to build and stop them from building the cable car in there. I mean, first and foremost, they didn't ask the people in the community, and they didn't ask the consent of the people in the region, right? And secondly, I mean, it's kind of funded by a certain business house, which will completely demolish the economic and the cultural aspect of that area. I mean, what's happening in other parts of the Nepal where there are cable cars is like they have taken over the whole kind of ecosystem of the economic and cultural aspect of the region. There was this beautiful article about how I mean, the people have been deprived, the local people, not just the indigenous community, but the local people have been deprived from benefiting from the project, that development project called cable car, because like no locals were allowed to kind of sell anything to the visitors. I mean, that company which managed the cable car, I mean, everything, they supplied everything. I mean, they benefited from everything. The locals were totally cut off. I mean, they had a very good business, and they had a very, it was bread and butter for them before the cable car. Now, the company, that a certain company, took the whole thing away from them. You can't even buy a water bottle. I mean, in that place. I mean, it all has to. It was all supplied by the company, and no one was allowed to sell a water bottle in the thing. And the same thing could happen in our Yakthung nation in Mukumlung, and people are fighting for it. And yeah, I mean, and not just the economic. I mean, so Mukumlung has amazing. It's a place for it's an amazing place for non-human lives. I mean, we have like red panda in there. And lots of floras in there, and they were saying like more than 10,000 trees had to be will be felt, I mean, because of that project. I mean, imagine the repercussions of the environmental repercussions of that project. And this is so, and also in the name of hunting, in the name of hunting reserve, I mean, up in, I forgot the name of the place. I mean, the insane idea of like taking away the indigenous land and build it hunting reserve, Dorpatan, sorry, yeah, Dorpatan hunting reserve. I mean, it's insane. It's insane, and they talk, and they fly tourists with big bucks on a helicopter to that hunting reserve. I mean, the amount of insanity. I mean, going through this. I mean, going through in these times and in our state in Nepal. I mean, it's just simply amazing. And if you have watched the film, there's this clip. If you have noticed, I wanted to talk about it because I mean, there are lots of clips I can talk about, but in this clip, this is the animated image from a height map. It's a terrain map taken from the Kanchenjunga area. So Kanchenjunga, I mean, it lies in the both sides of Nepal and India. I mean, you know, and although I mean, it may not be, it's not like perfect because it's a height map, and then it doesn't have like a accurate kind of features on it. But sorry, but it is taken from that region, and the reason I wanted this place is like a big mothership, indigenous mothership, hovering around, I mean, you know, over that region, because in the future, I mean, the nation states as we know it will not exist. We do not want to see them exist. You know, the way they operate these days, the way that the nation states we see today, I mean, we don't want them to exist in the future. And that's what I mean by like you know, the nationalist kind of sentiments going around in Nepal. It goes around everywhere, but yeah, I mean, it's amazing to see in Nepal as well. I mean, in India, I mean, you know, so the Adivasi Futurism kind of imagines the end of like the way the end of nation states in a way that no more indigenous people will have to live in its different kind of in a totally different country or totally different kind of, you know, places. I mean, yeah, I mean, it imagines a future where indigenous people will not have to face those kind of situations. And talking about indigenous nation, it is the work kind of heavily relies on the current movement, the current struggle going on in our homeland back home, and it's inspired by those situations. It's inspired by those struggles that we are actually facing, and you know, basically it stands on the ground of the actual struggles and movement that our people are going through. I mean, as we speak now, I mean, there is a protest for Mukunlung, like I recently mentioned. There is a protest against the name of our provinces. I mean, we wanted to name our provinces that would reflect our identity and reflect our indigenous relation to the land of our region, right? I mean, and which we have been denied. I mean, so I mean, it's kind of stands on the struggles of our people, and yeah, that's it. That's the main thing that drives the whole idea of why we want to imagine a future like this, why we want to kind of make a space to imagine those kind of futures. That would be the reason. Yeah, there's a huge protest going on, and Ladhamba Limbu, I mean, he was martyred like 4 or 5 months ago. You know, I mean, it talks about future, it talks about spaceships and all, but mostly my practice, for me, it is about the current struggle that our place and our people are facing. That's the main thing. And in Ladhamba Tayem, it's the same thing. It looks at the idea of nation states. So 1774, most of the kingdoms or other indigenous nations were kind of annexed to state of Nepal, but the Gorkha army, the Gorkha army, I mean, now the Nepal army, I mean, you know, our nation had like 17 different wars, but they couldn't win. And we had a treaty in 1774 AD. And Ladhamba Tayem kind of speaks about that moment when we were still a sovereign nation. We were not under the state of Nepal. I mean, and then the time traveler goes back to that time. It's a beautiful place, this river. It's called Arun. And the left one is the Arun, the right one is Sabha, and it's a confluence. And this is the actual place where the war took place. And the Kangsore, the character, was later, he kind of won the battle, a duel with the Gorkha army, the colonial army. But then, I mean, he was cheated and then assassinated in this place. Yeah, we went to this place to film, and and also, I mean, you know, and also I thought, like, I mean, why not pay my ancestor respect? I mean, pay homage by renaming that place, you know, in Google Maps. And now, I mean, it's been like viewed by I don't know, 100 people in a week or something. So it's I named it like Kangsore is the one in here, in the middle, and then yeah, I mean, I was kind of happy to see like people from my community have taken notice, and then you know, and then people visit this kind of the place quite a few times. And talking about Ladhamba Tayem, so it borrows its name from a verbal inflection. Verbal inflection, time is, but I'm gonna finish it. Specifies time of action or state, where time is future and Ladhamba is continuous in our Limbu language or Yakthung language. It imagines the future where indigenous people's actions and existence will still be in this space-time continuum. So like I said earlier, it's a conversation. You have the film you just saw, it's a conversation between Kangsore. Kangsore is a real figure. I mean, like I said, I mean, he was the chief of Yakthung army who was defending against the invading colonial army. He's a historical figure. And of course, Mickey is from a distant Yakthung future from the same place, but from a very distant future. So yeah, I mean, it's a very short conversation between them. So they take about time and space from their respective timelines, and it asks the viewer, I mean, it asks the viewer, like, especially the viewer from Yakthung indigenous community, like, you know, so look, here is this timeline where there was a Yakthung nation before there was a thing called Nepal, right? And here is Kangsore, the area. And here is this another timeline where we have developed a mind-bending technology of time travel and whatnot, right? And then, but to reach that that time traveling, mind-bending technology time, where we have our sovereignty, where we have technology, where we have you know, our language and cultures as well. I mean, what would it take to reach that time in a space-time continuum? So it has to be something done by the people in between, which is us, right? So it asks us the question. So it is not only conversation between a 18th century Yakthung warrior and a distant time traveler, but it is also a conversation with the audience, the current audience, the current, especially indigenous people. I mean, what would you do? What would you be able to kind of, you know, to kind of do, or to kind of sacrifice, or to work to reach that state? So it's a conversation between like three parties, I suppose. Yeah. And yeah, so she basically asked, like, are my ancestors prepared? Which means us. I mean, I really, I don't know where I saw it. I don't know who said it first, but I think many people said it. But, you know, we already are ancestors in the making. So she's asking us, and are we prepared? Are we prepared to do the things that needs to be done to reach that state and time, and secure our kind of space and agency in the space-time continuum? And I want to kind of leave you with the blessings that Mixum's mother gave to Mixum when she was a tiny kid. Be skilled in weaving time, be fast as speed of light, be bright as Tanchopa. Tanchopa is Venus, but in the morning Venus. Be bright as Tanchopa, be intelligent and kind, speak thousands of languages, think in hundreds or more. Never be afraid to move forward, never forget your past soul. May you travel to many stars, may the stars welcome you like I did. In times of despair and sorrow, let it pass through you and live for better tomorrow. For I will always be with you, even if you're light years away. Even if you're in another time, I will always love you to the Milky Way. Eric Nogan, thank you very much. Asewaro, asewaro.
Sewaro, Sewaro. I'm talking to the ceiling.
Right.
So we have our audience here, which you can see in the room, but our audio is from here. So for the question and answer, I want to invite anyone who has a question to please come up here to where I'm standing to ask your question. So I wanted to start out, it's like you were answering my questions as you went along with your talk. So my question, which I had thought about before, was I was going to ask you about how you connect the struggle that we need to engage in the present and the struggle to come with what we are maybe going to aspire for as you're presenting in this future where we have reestablished our relationship with the land, reestablished our relationship with the cosmos, maybe led by these indigenous traditions or any kinds of traditions. And what strikes me, you know, as a music and dance and folklore person, are these little aspects that link the different timelines. And so because well, Kazang was talking about the ritual with the dances, which is ending Ningwasum, and then also we just watched Ladhamba Tayem, and the feeling Ikochad is linking the different timelines. So one of the things that I would love to hear you elaborate on is your choices of not just the folklore, but these simple things which link past, present, and future, like feeling Equatad, for instance. So that's my first question.
Right.
Anybody else can please like,
Right.
raise your hand and then come up and be on deck.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, filinge ko achar is like, I don't know what you call filinge in English,
I don't know
but
either.
yeah, it's a pickle. It's a dry pickle, not a pasty wet pickle, but dry pickle made from that plant. It's a black seed, tiny, tiny seed. You crush it and then you mix chilies, dry chilies, preferably dry red chilies, and then salt. And we don't put lemon, we put chuk. I don't know what you call chukin. It's a very sour kind of thing.
Condensed
Uh,
lemon juice.
right? Yeah. I think so. Yeah, it's that filling a pickle, and it's a very you can find it in not just Yakthung household, but in many Nepalese households. It's a very common thing, and that was kind of the reference to it was like kind of a personal to me. Uh, um, the that particular thing you picked on. But yeah, I mean, it's very personal. I'll just say that for that one. But the other references, I mean, you know, so when Ming Soma says like, "Oh, your mother passed away in our timeline in the future," and then the thread kind of splits and then it breaks. So which in our community, it says like if that thing happens, I mean, it kind of denotes like someone passes away or will pass away, that kind of thing. Or if the thread is in very chaotic, messy kind of state, that means, I mean, chaos or messiness, I mean, in real life or something. I mean, you know, those kind of simple kind of things that you hear in your community and those kind of things. Yeah, I mean, I think there are more, but yeah, and obviously the textile is there. The pattern in the textile, it's a star kind of pattern, mostly because I think it was very easy to weave, you know, because they had like a very minimalistic, rudimental kind of looms, I suppose. So, you know, so the star, they weave that star because you see it every night and it's easy to weave. So let's weave the stars, I mean, you know. Yeah. I mean, if you notice anything, you know, yeah, I mean, you can ask, I suppose.
Other questions? Please don't be shy, come up.
No pressure though.
Okay, Mabel is coming.
Ooh, I don't know. Hi, Subash.
Into that mic. It's this
here. Okay. It's so amazing to see your work again. I had a question about the reception to your work. I know you've screened this work you've traveled a lot, and it's been screened internationally. But I'm curious how it's been received in the Yakthung Nation by young people, just elders. Have you had a chance to kind of screen it? And not just Ningwasum, but even the recent film. And I really appreciated actually in the more recent film how the questions that you're asking are for Indigenous, for the community, and it may or may not be for consumption for everyone in terms of like the questions that you're asking about ancestors. So I just want to say I really appreciate that, but I'm curious how the film has been received within the nation, within the Yakthung Nation. Yeah.
So in terms of the elders, I mean, in terms of the villages, I mean, I haven't been able to show the work, but from the young Yakthung brothers and sisters of our queer kins, I mean, yeah, the reception has been absolutely amazing. I mean, it's really supportive, whether it was in Kathmandu or in London or in and all over the places, especially from the young Indigenous people, and not just Yakthung people, to be honest. I get in touch with loads of young Indigenous creative people, artists, writers, and the reception has been so amazing. I mean, it's kind of overwhelming. People are. There was this audience in the, where was it? I think it was in Tate. I mean, there was this audience, a young audience who wanted to know if there is any language classes that she can take to learn the language, and there are people, I mean, who just comes up and say like, I mean, it's just good to see that, good to see people who look like them in a situation that in a very futuristic, in a very kind of contemporary, in a very positive kind of situation. I mean, yeah, I would say it's very overwhelming and a very humbling experience for me to talk to young Indigenous people, especially. But I haven't been yet able to kind of show it to the elderly community, apart from my mother and my stepmom. I mean, who are like, obviously, I mean, they liked it. But yeah, but from young people, it's the reception is amazing, and I'm very grateful. I'm very grateful for it.
Any more questions?
An artistic choice.
Can you please come? Come.
Thank you so much. My name is Ashok Das, and I'm also at the University of Hawaii in the center here. So this was about what was the thought behind. Thank you very much for explaining your. I mean, this session really helped to explain. I mean, I haven't been able to see the whole film, but it I mean, explained a lot of things that I think, which I mean, I was thinking about. But one question is, what was the thought behind your choice for the costume for the visitor from the future? The Yaktung girl who comes to visit. So I mean, the white spacesuit that she was wearing. So what's the thought behind choosing that costume?
Right. I mean, we choose. I think make would be a better word. We made that costume. So it has like the costume has a design. Obviously, I mean, when you make, whether Indigenous or non-Indigenous or anything, I mean, since Adivasi Futurism does not advocate for anti-technology or anti kind of advancement. I mean, you have to kind of go along with the science, of course. I mean, the choice of colors, white is kind of obvious for obvious reasons in traveling in space and in time. I mean, that's the obvious reasons. I mean, and the design we try to incorporate the design of Silam Sakma in there, but in a very kind of a subtle way. So 3 lines you see on the upper top of the time travelers, it kind of reflects those 3 lines from Silam Sakma, which basically has like 3 primary colors. I mean, which is also kind of not just an indigenous perspective, but I mean, primary colors are, I mean, primary colors are, for everyone. And of course, it has those insignias. I mean, it has those insignias that tells about, that has specific script, specific kind of stories to tell. So one of the insignias is called Kesebahim. It's in a Yakthung language only, that insignia with a black background and a star. So that is the insignia of observatory. Keseba means stars, him means house, right? House of the stars. So that insignia belongs to the House of the Stars observatory. That's observatory in a future, distant future. I mean, and those time travelers are a graduate of, I mean, graduate, I don't know what to call them, but, for communication's sake, I mean, yeah, they are the graduates of the House of the Stars observatory. And the other insignia, I mean, kind of tells the story about how they did a mission to Venus. So it's called Tanchopa 4. So Tanchopa is Venus and 4 is like the 4th mission, maybe. I don't know. I mean, so it has those kind of stories. I mean, while I was talking to this organization who kind of acquired the suits already. So we were talking about, I could make a separate exhibition just about the suit and why using those script, why using those insignias, why there is a line, and for the shape and figure. I mean, obviously, I mean, indigenous people would wear the same pants as any other space travelers, I suppose. I mean, those kind of things. Yeah, I don't know if I answer your question.
No, you did. Thank you. I was just curious about logics that went in. Thank you. Thanks so much.
Thank you. But obviously, it was not just my effort. It was Adivasi Subba, the designer, and Sanu Babu uncle, who actually made the suit. I mean, it's our collective kind of effort.
Thank you so much, Subash. Are there any other questions? I see smiles. Does that mean that you want to come up here and ask one? All right. Please introduce yourself as well. Yeah, I'll get out of the way.
Hi, Subash. Thank you for that film. It was so poetic and beautiful. And I was curious specifically the pin that you're wearing, that symbol. What does it symbolize? And I didn't catch its name, and I'm curious about its origins, and also if you've seen a similar symbol and like practice and ritual that's present in Mexico is called Ojos de Dios. It looks very similar to that, so I was wondering if you came across that or noticed that yourself.
Thank you so much. Yeah, this is the Silam Sakma. So it's one of the images that I showed in a slide, Silamsakma, Silam Sakma, and it's in the so it's a ritual object called Silam Sakma. But like I said in my talk, I mean, people, and Silam Sakma basically means blocking the path of the death, and we still use it the one with the bamboo cross and the thread, we still use it in our rituals. But we also use the image in our organization's logo. We have a pin. There are like earrings as well, and you know, those pendants. I mean, everything in this shape. I mean, but we are not the only people to have this kind of shape and design. I mean, I have, like you mentioned, I mean, there are lots of indigenous people in South America. We don't have to go far. I mean, there are Tibetan people who call it Namkha. They have more elaborate and more beautiful designs than the Yakthung people, to be honest. I mean, you know, we only have this, but the Tibetan people have like amazing designs and, you know, colors. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone? Okay, I think we have come now to the end of our questions. So thank you, Subash, so much for all of everything that you shared with us today from your films. And also, we're so grateful that you shared the links with us so that we can watch them and rewatch them and discover more on subsequent viewings. So yeah.
One last thing before I go. I forgot to say something. As an indigenous people fighting for the land in our country as we speak now, in our places in Nepal as we speak, I just want to say, like, I want to mention that I want to place a huge solidarity to Palestinian people fighting for their land against the occupation, Israeli apartheid settler colonial project called Israel. I mean, yeah, that's what I wanted to put it out there.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Sewaru, Sewaru.
We know you have a plane to catch, so
Yes.
we will let you go. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Everyone is waving from the back, if you can see.
Yeah, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you very much, thank you.